Everybody is in this room to really better themselves, better their team, better their company, and it's great. Now, essentially, nobody changes anything like a light switch. That doesn't happen, okay? That doesn't happen. We want that every day. But essentially, I love having exercises like these, which you can all do, because sometimes people are in a habit of not thinking like this. So maybe if you were to just kind of keep in mind, when was the last time that you kind of thought to yourself like this, for yourself or for your team, okay? So starting right now, congratulations, that's what you've already done. So you shifted the habit to think like more of a high-performing professional. So that's great. So what we do is usually we suffer more in our imagination than in reality. Okay, that's from Seneca. He's a Roman philosopher, born in 4 BC, I believe. And he's great. He's one of my favorite. This says a lot. This is one of my favorite quotes of all time. Essentially, most people, like including myself, because I'll put myself there first, have freaked out over time about things that never happened. If you were to really think about it, the things that we're afraid about, even right now, or the things that we concern ourselves with, or the things that we've gone through in the past that, okay, I can't believe that this has happened, this might happen, or that might happen, and all these different scenarios, and it just doesn't happen. That's simply because, as people, we are essentially afraid, much more so, of things that don't even exist. It's just in our imagination. And in reality, a lot less is going on. So keep that in mind. The reason why I bring that up is because what we're going to do is breeze through this list that we have right here. What you want to do is you want to be the person you want to work with. You want to be the person that you want to have on your team. You want to be the person who you are going to be in 10 years from now. All right? You want to be the person who's running everything right now. That's where your mindset should be, okay? And then we figure out the path on how to get there, just little by little. So this list, this one, these points right here, they're all on the sheets of paper in front of you too. We're gonna breeze through these because we need to make time for the last part of our session. But really the first point is practice empathy, okay? So empathy, for those of you who don't know, means being able to put yourself in someone else's shoes. You would empathize with them because they are another human. And it's very basic, but it's actually a trait that you also need to practice. Everything is you need to practice. So that's why it's important not to just know what it is, it's important to practice it, okay? Every single person has ups and downs, you know. We're working on the roadways over here to enter this building. So everybody is getting here in the morning. It's like a little bit more crazy than it's going to be later on. Everybody has things that they're dealing with, okay? But the fact is that when you're making a project or when you're having a conversation or when you're doing something, it's important to understand that they're going through their own things too. That's it. That's what they're doing. So you never really know until you ask. We went through our entire little exercise about how to ask or about asking in the first place, the mentality of asking. So it's important to not just assume the facts or assume what's going on. It's very important to ask what's going on. You know, this works very well in the professional sphere. Also, equally as well in personal relationships, if you were to have them with a spouse or girlfriend or whomever they would be, because essentially a lot of times we don't know what the other person is saying. But we need to be able to inquire, be inquisitive, to really get to the root. It's like, okay, that's what you meant. So that's how we're going to solve this. Next, people don't like bad news, but they hate surprises. People don't like bad news, but they hate surprises. So who here has ever ran on the New York subway system? Okay, like everybody. Whoever took the train to work, like most of us who go here, right? And I go to the city almost every day. Every single day, at least once every week, the train stops when we're not doing anything. We're just trying to get to work, and we're 15 minutes early, and we do nothing to get in the way of the universe, and the train just stops when we're getting close, and we wait there for X amount of time. And then at that moment, that's when the person on the speaker says, we're going to be here for X amount of time. It's like you throw your hands up in the air like, what is that? That's life. That's the story of all of our lives. I grew up on that train, on the 7 train. So that happens, right? So we get irritated, fun fact, about that very much. Because it's like, are you serious? Like, literally, I'm trying to get to work. It's because it was just that, a surprise, really. A surprise that was just a wall that was just placed there, seemingly by no one. However, if the MTA system, maybe seeing this on a video later on, would actually recognize that, okay, you know how online right now they have some delays or strong delays or whatnot on your apps. Now for the people who work in a place, let's say in Queens or in a certain borough, and they get to the same train at the same work or whatever every single day, so they don't need to check their phones, they just leave at the same time. It would help also if these conductors would, let's say, verbally ahead of time on the ride that, okay, we're expecting some traffic up there, that's what's gonna happen. It's more of a coming into the surprise. Oh, okay, this is happening, but I had some time to buffer it, right? Same thing when you're talking in a professional sense. It's incredibly important not to give your team or person, individual, so many surprises that are negative. Let's say people love surprises. Well, I love surprises that are positive, right? So positive. But for negative things, it's much better to, let's say, give them as much time as possible, right? Because we have, just like how we have muscle capacity, physical capacity, we have mental capacity throughout the day. So there's only so much that we really want to go through on a mental basis until we become really mentally fatigued. And then what happens when you get more mentally fatigued? Then you just get more irritated. And when you get more irritated, and then that's a different talk. So, okay. Next is to let go of perfection. You need to let go of perfection. Perfection doesn't really exist. It's not really a thing. Okay? There's the idea of perfection. But what you want to do is strive for optimization. That's what you want to do. That's the high-performing method. Okay? When I had my sales company in Times Square, I had a sales company in Times Square for 3 years. And essentially for all my people, I personally love to be able to build people from the level that they're at into the next level that they're trying to go. I love that. I live for that. So essentially, I could not expect people, even though my training was quite concise, that okay, this is how you get here and this is how you get there. Not everybody learns the same way. Not everybody learns the same way, right? Not everyone reacts the same way. Not everybody picks things up the same way. So it's important that you understand that people aren't perfect. Even if your training is perfect, it's still the back and forth. So you need to strive for optimization. That's what you need to do. So we're going to breeze through the rest a little bit faster. We need to compromise together, just like in a relationship, personal or business. You compromise, come to a middle ground, build together. Don't make overly emotional decisions. Essentially, how you build businesses and how you build your professionalism is by playing by the numbers, usually. Now, of course, we're humans, so we're emotional people. Of course, it's part of it. Of course, it's part of it, okay? But essentially, you don't want to be so upset because of what we said before, the train that came in and you had this bad conversation or you had this project that needed to be done and now you had to go over the time and that all these things are happening and then maybe someone, whoever it is, gets more emotional and then maybe starts making some decisions based off of that. It's not the best move in a professional sense. And for these three, having a problem-solving mentality, you never want to be with somebody who, in any case, a professional or personal sense, who is just complaining the whole time. Nobody likes to hang around those people. So if you were to think, I have some good friends of mine who are still my good friends, but there was this patch where some of them just started complaining only, okay, about their girlfriend, and then their professional life, and then their this, and then that, and then that. Now there's a difference between just solely complaining and venting, because you need to vent, okay? Part of these exercises that we're doing, you're having something that's inside you and saying it to somebody else. You're getting it out there on paper. That's important, vent. But if all you do is just complain forever, for all of time, nobody's gonna wanna hang out with you. That's kind of it. Lastly, overturning objections and obstacles by keeping the goal in mind. So you need to be able to have the bigger picture. So when you're having a strong project or having a tough time, a tough conversation, your goal of why you're doing it in the first place needs to be bigger than just the work you're doing in the first place. So it's a very big deal, that incredible efficiency for all countries. I was going to say most countries, like every country in the US, you could say, for airplanes or whatnot, for flights, flight dynamics would happen because of the work that everyone here is doing. Like, that's a big deal. Like, that's kind of insane, you know? So if you kind of don't care about that as a person, that's actually fine. If you have this project that goes off, which means that you can move on to better projects, or if you're doing better here, so it's fill in the blank, right? This will lead to my next opportunity. This, I'll get this kind of compensation. This I'll get, so just understand what that means to you, and understand that that is more important than whatever kind of nonsense that you're dealing with. That's it. And lastly, if you want to be heard, then you have to listen. So what does this person really want? What is this person really trying to say? You got to listen first before you can be understood, okay? All right, so we're going to go breeze through this. This is the tough conversations checklist. So this is taking action and applying. So this is also part of your packet as well. Put this right on your computer, because whenever you have a conversation, you can just checklist this off, and it's like, okay, this person is being totally difficult, or I'm going through something I'm going through right now. Okay, whether it's verbally or through writing, you can go through this so you can really buffer and hash out to how to solve the problem, okay? So what you want to do is define the issue. So define what is wrong, okay? So I'm not married yet or anything, but I've seen it my whole life, right? So maybe some people in the audience would be able to help me out. That essentially, sometimes couples, even if they've been with each other for a long time, sometimes just complain and they don't say what the issue is, right? There's just talking around in a circle, you know, which I've done in some other relationships, but it's, how do you just talk and you get into this circle that just keeps going? And how does that happen? It's because the issue isn't defined, okay? And you just calm down for a second and say, what's actually wrong? What are we actually talking about? Then you go from there, okay? You explain why this is important, why this needs to change. So going into getting things, because we talked about a lot about asking for things. How you get these things really is this list. But knowing why the person needs to follow your direction or follow the instructions you give them, that's what's going to make them do it in the first place. Just keep in mind, none of you would be here if you didn't have a reason of why you're here, right? And so when you want to convince or persuade or have someone do something for you or with you, they have to understand why that's important in the first place. Propose what needs to change and how, and offer to make the change happen with the team. So you need to tell them how this should happen, because essentially if we were to take, let's say something really small, okay, let's have a really silly scenario that I'm hungry, and you have a teammate, business partner, personal individual, and you're just telling them, I'm hungry. You're just telling them the problem, right? Like, I'm hungry. And the person's like, okay, I'm hungry. Okay, get something to eat, do something, like get out of my face. That's essentially what would happen. But something very small like that is equivalent in terms of systematic process to something much bigger, okay? So instead of just coming and saying, this is the problem, you can say, this is the problem, so maybe this is what we should do. You know what? I know you're in charge of that, but how can I help you do that? Okay, how can I help you do that? And so you know what, I don't know about this, or maybe you know what, I know more about this and you don't, but I know we have to do it together. So what do you think? Like, how would you do it? How would we do this together? You just literally build it together, okay? That's honestly it. Take that for your personal or professional life, that's fine. But that'll help a lot, okay? And lastly, what you want to do is hold accountability for the result. Okay, because when you follow through, that means saying something and doing it. Honestly, that's how you get a lot of respect. You get a lot of respect, and you get a lot of reliability. You get more reliability in terms of the leader's eyes to you. Because if you're gonna say, hey, I'm going to take care of this project, it gets done, cool, that's it. If you say, hey, I'm gonna go to the movies, do you wanna come with me? And you arrive on time and you do it. You'd be surprised, but they have very similar weight of reliability in the other person's eyes. Because it means if I go and speak with this person, they're going to do what they say they're going to do. That's powerful. That's really powerful. That is really powerful. Okay, it's helped me a lot in my career too. And so what you would do is just hold accountability to that. So you're saying that this is what we decided on, and this is what we're going to do. So when should I follow up with you on this? Or when do you want me to follow up with you? Is it okay if I follow up with you? Like when should we come back to this? What are we going to do? Just think about it on a personal level as well. Let's say if you're hanging out with friends, the classic scenario, I don't know, when everybody was, especially high school era of just not knowing what to do, okay? When they're hanging out, I don't know, we should do this, or maybe we should do that, or we should do this, or we should do that. And nobody comes up with an answer. Make a decision, and then have an endpoint as to, okay, when should we follow up with it, hold accountability, and then just repeat that until the job gets done. And that's it. That's it. Okay. And next comes rejection. So one of the big things for rejection, a big thing to go over first is, what does it mean to you? Okay. So we're about to get into another writing portion, but right before we're getting into that, just take a real brief second as to what does rejection mean to you. Some of the leaders, they wanted me to talk about that during this meeting. And it's really interesting because, I ran a sales company, and usually it's no, the word no. And all derivatives of no. That's usually what a rejection is, right? That's usually it. Now, just think for you, we're not going to write this part down, but what does rejection mean for you? Is it rejecting your idea or not going along with your plans, not physically being with you for the project, not listening to you, not including you in something, right? So these are all kind of different branches of a form of rejection. So think of what it is to you, because it might not be the same thing for whoever you're talking to or whoever you're trying to impact. Okay? Now, how to deal with it is knowing that you can't control everything. That's one of the biggest things, that you can't control everything. So for everyone whom I've trained in terms of, let's say, sales or leadership and things of that nature, when people understand this concept that you just can't control everything, you need to let things go, a lot of things get easier in a lot of different parts of your life. So this is what we're going to do. This is on your sheet right now. And this is called controllables versus uncontrollables. Okay? So what we're going to do is on the papers in front of you, you can actually fill this in. We're going to just shout out, what are the things that we can control, let's say on a regular basis? So the clothes, and what was the other one? Temper, somebody said? Yeah. Temper. Okay. What else? Just a few more. What was that? Your mood? In a way. In a way. Yeah. Yeah. My response. Oh, yeah. Your response. That's right. And one more. What was that? Your approach. It's very smart. Your approach. How you're approaching. Very true. Okay. So all of that is in our circle of control. Okay. That's right here in the middle. So outside. So let's talk about the uncontrollables, the things that you cannot control. So what are some of those? We run into them every day. And yes, the weather. That's one of them. So you can write that down. What was that? Traffic. What was that? People's actions. That's true. Other people's actions. Okay, one more. From over here. One of you guys. The Mets winning. Oh, my heart. So that's the locus of control outside of your control. Okay? So these are filled in. These are some examples that you can write down. Okay? Right here, the circle of our control. Our priorities, our development, being prepared, eating, self-care, our mentality, our work ethic, who you spend time with, how you structure your day. The things you can't control. The weather and traffic and other people's actions. That's so amazing. You guys basically said almost all of these. Mistakes. So you could say things that happen in the future, right? You can't control mistakes. Just things happen. The word no. You can't control other people saying no, or sometimes life saying no. Emergencies, opinions, attitudes, other people's attitudes. Delays. Let's say either traffic or let's say for situations, right? This was supposed to happen this time. Everybody did what they were supposed to do, but it's a delay. What are you going to do? It's out of our control, right? Negative people and everything that branches off from negative people. I don't deal with them too much anymore. So there are three things that you can really control, okay? Because there's all these examples, but there's an umbrella, really just of three things that you can control, and that is your mentality, your actions, and your reactions. That's amazing how one of you actually said reactions too. I know that's one of you said that. It's really cool. So your mentality and your actions and your reactions. That's everything in here. When you start to really pick that up on a day-to-day basis, that you really can't, like you really can't really shift or change any of these other things, at least it would take a while, then you start just letting things go a lot more, okay? That's honestly it. You start becoming more focused on the project that you're working on, or you start becoming more focused on the way that you have self-care, right? Because you start losing all that energy that's going to something else, like the dumb MTA when they're being dumb, or these other people who are either acquaintances or not, but they're somehow in your life and they're just kind of pulling away from you. You really start to let all that go, and then you start optimizing yourself. That's a high-performing method. That is a high-performing method. That is how you wind up in a leadership position, the next level that you're at, in a place that you want to be. It's really that kind of mentality. Your mentality, your actions, and your reactions. So hold on to that. Okay, and lastly is this. So this is one of the images that come to mind when I think of a person, okay? Okay. When I think of somebody and their potential, I think of somebody as a giant luxury cruise ship, like really big, like really huge, okay? With multiple city blocks, like way bigger than that, multiple city blocks here in Manhattan, multiple city blocks from that, and they have so many amenities, and you, as an individual, there's just so much to you. There's just so much that you don't know about. There's just so much that you haven't done yet, and there's so many things that you have done already. There's just so much there, right? But the fact is that you're just going along, right? And you want to make this huge change. You want to make this huge shift, right? But like I said earlier in this meeting, that you never make a shift in anything in your life. It's never a light switch. It's never like that. So to change all this massive potential, right? That's just so much going on, even so much that you don't know about. The way that you change it is you do it with a shift that's very small. It's very small. That's how boats are navigated. Essentially, you cannot do hairpin turns. You can't do 90-degree turns on a ship, okay? Essentially how it works is that there's a main function, a main control, and it moves by a few degrees. And this ship, just like the individual, is in the middle of the ocean. And in the middle of the ocean, you could say it's the same thing as being in the middle of life, right? You like don't see the end, and you're here, and you're there, and you're just going through it. But essentially, that shift makes a huge difference. Because within a boat, even though you're in the middle of the water, if you're looking from a helicopter view, that's a huge degree turn over time. And you wind up in somewhere that's completely different. So as long as you take what I'm telling you today, and you start with that shift, and you keep along the path of where you're looking to go, then you're going to wind up at the destination that you choose. So thanks for having me.